Should vets refuse to put down XL Bullies? Now, the XL Bully breed has been outlawed since January the 1st after Suella Braverman passed legislation making it illegal to breed, sell or rehome the animal. That's after a series of attacks. At least 246 XL Bullies were expected to be destroyed by the end of 2023. But a lot of vets won't put down healthy dogs. And a recent survey showed that 94% of newly graduated veterinarians would refuse to euthanize a healthy XL Bully with no behavioural problems. Malcolm Morley of the British Veterinary Association said earlier this week that many practices have received threats over the matter. Seems a bit extreme, Danny, for a vet to say, look, I'm not going to euthanize a perfectly healthy dog with no behavioural issues, for them to be threatened.
Well, unfortunately, we hear that it's a minority of owners who are bad owners, particularly with this breed. And I don't like this breed. And I know I'm going to...
Why don't you like it?
Because I think innately they're very violent, or they have the capability to be very violent. I think it's bred into them. If you look at the lineage of the breed, there's lots of inbreeding. And unfortunately, it all adds up to a very unhealthy mental state. Now, I've got nothing against dogs. I like dogs. But I am wary of dogs that are capable of tearing you apart. And unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their lives. I feel very sorry for the XL Bully owners, though, Alexis, because they're the apple of their eyes. And I get that. And the government are making it very expensive just to keep an XL Bully. So I agree that they should be on the dangerous dogs list, because I defer to the experts. I'm not an expert, but if an expert tells me that that dog is innately violent, then I agree with them.
What about the ethics of the vets, then, Emily? Because they're saying, look, you know, it's a bit like a doctor.
Well, exactly.
Your purpose there is to make sure that
an animal survives.
An animal survives.
Well, actually, that analogy is not strictly accurate, if I may, Alexis, because with a doctor, the sanctity of human life is everything, and so that we don't have euthanasia in this country. With animals, it is different. The vet's job is not to prolong a life of an animal at all costs. It's a good life. And actually, a lot of those 226 dogs that you talked about that will going to have to be put down at the beginning of this month are those that are in homes, RSPCA, battered dogs and cats homes, who have been, and the whole point that the animal charities say is that they will only keep, it's bad for animals to be kept for the rest of their lives in animal homes. And so that's why potentially they might euthanise the XL Bully. It is on the dangerous dogs list. At the beginning of February, I think you're going to have a licence, as Danny said, to be able to keep an XL Bully. I think you can rehome an XL Bully, but again, you're going to have permission.
I've yet to understand why you have to have the dog euthanised, seeing as you can still keep the dog. It has to be on a lead and on a muzzle when it's in public. I know that there is also an incentive to get your dog euthanised. You can get £200 for getting your XL Bully euthanised. And it seems a little odd. I can see why. I can understand why some vets would say no, but say no about, but the dog. But also there is a point to having these dogs. They're on the dangerous dog list now. We don't want them to keep breeding. Okay.
We don't want them to keep breeding.
All right. Well, look, let's speak to an XL Bully owner now. Sophie Carty joins us. Sophie and her XL Bully, who I think is asleep next to you.
I think he switched off when Danny started to say that he didn't like the breed. So he's laid down now. I'll try and get. I'm sure he'll sit back up when I start talking. But could I firstly just point out that there has been some misinformation already shared by the panelists. So anybody who does have an XL Bully, please familiarise yourself with DEFRA's guidelines to get dates and things like that correct.
Okay.
Just because there's so much misinformation in the media.
Okay, but set the record straight then, Sophie. At the moment, if you're an XL Bully owner, what are the rules?
Well, right now, my dog needs to be muzzled and on a lead at all times outside the house. And then from the end of this month, then anyone with an XL Bully that wishes to keep their dog needs to apply for an exemption. So just want to be clear, it's not a license. We don't have licensing in the UK. It's an exemption certificate that allows you to keep your dog, but under very strict restrictions, which have an impact on the dog's welfare. There are many people who are losing their homes because they're not allowed to keep their dogs anymore. So there's a lot more to it than just a muzzle and a lead.
Sophie, what do you make of the story regarding the vets who refuse to put down XL Bullies, who are now getting threats?
Yeah, there has been a history of abuse on both sides and threats on both sides for people who are for the ban and people who are against the ban. And it's really difficult because it is a highly emotive time for people. I think anybody who's ever been in a vet and seen their dog put to sleep, which I have, and it was probably the most traumatic day of my life, to be honest. And my dog was sick. So it was the right thing. But that must be a lot for a vet to take on, and have to deal with. And that is doing the right thing by a sick animal. So to be given healthy animals and be asked to put them to sleep, they have got an oath that says that they do not have to put to sleep healthy animals. And I think that whatever the vet's judgment is, that should be respected. They're in an incredibly difficult situation.
OK, Sophie, stay with us. Let's speak to some people, plenty of people wanting to have their say on this. Let's speak to Deborah and Essex. Deborah, good afternoon. What would you like to say?
Good afternoon. Yeah, I would also like to say that I agree entirely with the vets that are refusing to put the dogs down. It's completely immoral. Vets are trained to save lives, just like doctors are trained to save lives. And you don't actually get a bad dog, but there's plenty of, unfortunately, of bad owners of bully dogs. And you can also see it's very evident by the number now of dogs, XL Bullies, that are just being abandoned and the terrible conditions they're being found in by these kind of abusive owners that just can't be bothered with the new legislation in muzzling them and keeping them on leads. And the problem is the government don't offer adequate deterrence to stop these abusive owners from ill-treating the dogs.
Deborah, thank you. Just quickly, Sophie, he's woken up now.
Yes.
He's very brief. He seems very gentle. Sophie, what do you make of Deborah's words there? The problem is that many XL Bully owners just can't handle the dogs or are using the dogs as some sort of status symbol, so they encourage the aggression that's built in to the XL Bully. Is the owners the problem or is the breed the problem?
I mean, I would like to address this thing about XL Bullies being aggressive. And actually, if you look at the experts and what experts who have advised DEFRA have said, and maybe question why vets are refusing to put healthy dogs down, what do they know that the media don't know? They know that no dog is inherently aggressive. There are certain breeds that are more powerful. There are certain breeds that could do more damage. And there are a number of large breed dogs.
Sophie, are you essentially saying that this has all just been whipped up by the media and that this is all a load of sort of baloney and XL Bullies are actually really like docile dogs and haven't tried to rip people's throats out and haven't killed people? And in an incident in Birmingham last year, the dog broke its collar twice and 2 grown men were injured trying to stop it attacking an 11-year-old girl. The evidence, my dear, is in front of you.
What I will question is the DNA of the dogs that have been doing these attacks, and that has not been disclosed by the government. They are not saying this is a ban on the American Bully breed, because if they were, they would be tackling all different sizes, not just the XL size, if there was an inherent problem with the breed. They're not. They are attacking any large bull breed dog that fits a certain description, that looks a certain way, is being banned. And there are other dogs that the irresponsible owners that the caller just mentioned will be moving on to.
There are 5 dogs now on the dangerous dogs list, of which XL Bullies are one. And I understand that, there's a lot of as Danny said earlier, there's a lot of crossbreeding. But, inherently, these are dangerous dogs that have been responsible for a number of attacks that grown men and women cannot control.
Okay. All right, let's take another call. Jane has called from Gosport. Jane, good afternoon. What would you like to say?
I'd like to say what a load of rubbish that woman has just spoken. Sophie is talking a lot of sense.
OK. Hang on. Will you disagree with what Emily has just said, that there have been attacks by XL Bully type dogs. I know Sophie's questioning their DNA makeup and maybe they were a crossbreed of perhaps another XL Bully, but these dogs can be dangerous.
Any dog, if they're trained, can be dangerous.
Okay, but a Chihuahua deciding to attack you is not going to cause the amount of damage that dog is going to cause if it decided it wanted to attack you.
We're not talking about Chihuahuas, Tom. We're talking about XL Bullies.
That's right, but you're saying that any dog can be dangerous. And I put it to you that any dog can't be as dangerous as one that size and that power.
Well, a Chihuahua could be to a baby.
Okay,
Jane, that's not right, is it? I mean, a Chihuahua is tiny.
Go on. Jane, make the point you wanted to make. Go on.
The point I want to make is this ban is ridiculous.
Okay.
It's bad owners, not the dogs. Dogs do not inherently want to attack people that look after them or are kind to them.
But that's why there's an exemption certificate.
Stand behind them. It's the people that are behind them that use them for fighting dogs, to protect them, all these bad people.
But Jane, actually, that's why this legislation has been introduced. Because, as Sophie has pointed out, you have to have, from the 1st of February, an exemption certificate to be able to still own one. So you can still own one, but you have to apply to have and keep the dog. It has to be muzzled, has to be microchipped, and it has to be neutered and kept on a lead at all times. And so, therefore, that is essentially controlling the owner.
Excuse me, that is not enough. My friend has one, and now her dog cannot go out and run around and exercise in any shape or form.
Okay, Jane, thank you. Jane, thank you. I just wanted to squeeze in some more calls. Helen has called in from Dorset. Helen, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say I think those dogs are very dangerous, and I think they can hurt and maim and kill people, and I think they should all be put down. I do not think it's up to the vets. I don't think they're qualified enough to make that decision.
Well, hang on. Helen, you think the vets, whose job it is to look after the welfare of those animals, they're experts about their behaviour, you think that they're not qualified to make that decision?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they're qualified where those dogs are concerned.
Okay. Who do you think is qualified?
Nobody. That's why we want to have them all put down.
Oh, okay. All right. Helen, thank you for your call. Let's take another. Wendy in Surrey. Good afternoon, Wendy.
Hi.
What would you like to say?
First of all, I totally disagree with Helen.
Right.
These dogs are gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It's the owners that need putting down.
Well, that's a little bit extreme, but I think I know what you mean. But
you know, that's one of the most unhelpful fallacies, that it's always the owners and never the dogs. It reminds me almost of the Second Amendment gun nuts in America who say, why should I give up my gun just because of some lunatic with a gun? And it was like when we had the Dunblane massacre. Unfortunately, people had to make sacrifices and they had to give up their hand-arms because of the Dunblane massacre. And it's the same with these dogs. Now, some people love these dogs, but unfortunately, there have been over a dozen deaths because of these dogs, and they got to go. I don't agree with the euthanasia. I think that's tragic. And that lady with her XL Bully, it's the apple of her eye. But unfortunately, if you just use the analogy of the guns, they've got to go. They've got to go. They've got to go.
Dogs are unpredictable. Dogs are unpredictable. They are. And Sophie, Billy looks lovely there, and I'm sure you're a really responsible owner and you love him, but they are unpredictable animals and they can kill.
Okay.
Bottom
all right.
line.
Well, look, I've run out of time. Sophie, I'm sure we're going to be discussing this again at some time soon. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Billy. Thank you to Emily, Danny. Jeremy's back at 9:15 tomorrow morning. I'll see you at the same time tomorrow.